Good evening, brothers and sisters. Let's give thanks together this night to God our Father, recalling his unfailing love for us that meets us right where we're at and bids us to rest in him and his promises for us, given to us in his word and his life for us. We're reminded of that tonight and every night of our lives when we get into God's holy word and open and hear what he has to say to us, his friend. Tonight, we read Job 19:26, where it says, "In my flesh I shall see God." To help us understand that, we're using Charles Spurgeon's Evening by Evening. Here's what Charles writes. Consider the subject of Job's devout anticipation. I shall see God. He doesn't say I shall see the saints, though doubtless that'll be untold happiness too. But I shall see God. It's not, I shall see the pearly gates. I shall behold the walls of jasper. I shall gaze upon the crowns of gold. But he says, I shall see God. This is the sum and substance of heaven. This is the joyful hope of all believers. It's their delight to see him now in the ordinances by faith. They love to behold him in communion and in prayer, but there in heaven they shall have an open and unclouded vision, and thus seeing him as he is, shall be made completely like him. Likeness to God. What more can we wish for? And a sight of God, what can we desire better than that? Some read the passage, "Yet I shall see God in my flesh," and find here an allusion to Christ as the Word made flesh, and that glorious beholding of him that shall be the splendor of the latter days. Whether so or not, it's certain that Christ shall be the object of our eternal vision, nor shall we ever want any joy beyond that of seeing him. Don't think that this will be a narrow sphere for the mind to dwell in. It's but one source of delight, but that source is infinite. All his attributes shall be subject for contemplation, and as he is infinite under each aspect, there is no fear of exhaustion. His works, his gifts, his love to us, and his glory in all his purposes and in all his actions, these shall make a theme that will be ever new. The patriarch looked forward to this sight of God as a personal enjoyment. Whom I shall see for myself, and my eyes shall behold, and not another. Take realizing views of heaven's bliss. Think what it will be to you. Your eyes will behold the King in his majesty, in all his beauty. All earthly brightness fades and darkens as we gaze upon it. But here is a brightness that can never dim, a glory that can never fade. I shall see God. Brothers and sisters, what does your vision of God look like? Can you picture it right now? Do you picture him in all his glory? Is it a mountaintop that the city sits on? Is he walking? Is he sitting? Is he bearded? What color? You see, your vision of God is beautiful. I don't know what it looks like, but I don't have to. Your vision of God says a lot about how you see God. Once, many years ago at seminary, we were asked to draw a picture of God. So some of us sat down, and some of us had Jesus walking through parks. Some of us had Jesus sitting on mighty thrones. Some had Jesus dressed up. Others had Jesus looking poor. Some, because we weren't artists, just had Jesus as a stick figure. Those images said more about us than it did about God. There was a variety of ways and reasons for how each person pictured God as they did. And as they looked upon one another's drawings, sometimes sharing them, they began to realize that none of them were wrong. We just saw God a little differently. And it was somehow in all those glorious images that God became even more beautiful to our eyes. That we began to appreciate how he was touching others' lives, not just our own. What an amazing God we have that would do so much to reach each and every one of us uniquely in our space. This is our God. This is the one that we behold. I shall see God. I asked what your vision of God is. Perhaps it too will grow when you start to meet others, when you start to see how they see God, when you attend a different church or meet another believer of a different denomination, when you talk to them and you hear what scripture is on their heart. They are touched, it is bold, and your vision may grow and you might see God in a new and more powerful way. Perhaps your image will change. I don't know. I know Spurgeon shared a mighty vision of God. He used words to do it, and it is grand and glorious. Perhaps yours is more like John the Baptist with camel hair and sandals eating locusts. I don't know. I know when I was asked, I drew a coffee cup. And they asked, why? Why a coffee cup? And I said, because God to me is relationship. God to me warms me. God to me is something I can hold on to. This God who chooses to serve me and doesn't charge me anything. His cup overflows with love. He takes the bitterest thing, the beans, and he makes them sweet. He makes all things savory, and I can smell his aroma. And every time I drink a cup of coffee, I think of relationship with others. This God who serves and invites. This God who fills me up over and over again. It's been a lot of years. And yet, if you still ask me what my vision of God is, I'm likely to draw a simple coffee cup. Perhaps because I've seen so many other visions of God now from dear friends who believe. And I realize I can no longer pin down the color, the shape, the size, the height, even what's around him or what he's wearing. And perhaps that's because he's beyond anything I can imagine. So a simple coffee cup works for me. Perhaps you'll share with me one day your vision of God over a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. Whatever it is, I would love to share it with you. Hear how you picture God as you understand him from God's holy word. What parts have come together to reveal his glory to you, his precious child. A motorcycle pastor saying thanks for being here with me tonight. I look forward to seeing you when the sun rises. God bless you, brothers and sisters. I'll see you in the morning.